We are more interconnected than ever. Just look at the device you're watching this video on. It instantly connects you to a vast amount of people, perspectives, and cultures. At the same time, the technology that brings us together creates online environments filled with hostility and prejudice. I mean, look at Twitter. X. This makes us ask the question, how can we be so interconnected yet so prejudiced at the same time? What can we do about it? Hi, my name is Mamobo Ogoro, social psychologist and founder of Gorm. And if you want to unify across differences, make sure to subscribe. In the book called The Nature of Prejudice by social psychologist Gordon Allport, it defines prejudice as a hostile attitude or feeling towards a person solely based on his or her belonging to a group and assign characteristics based on that group, aka making bad assumptions about someone based on the traits of their group that they belong to or perceived belong to. These so-called traits are usually stereotypes, and that's another video in itself, where we label people based off of certain characteristics such as skin color, gender identity, socioeconomic background, amongst others. For example, there's a stereotype that all Africans will show up late to your event. They will, but that's besides the point. According to Allport, these negative attitudes emerge due to a mix of social, economic, and historical factors that first amount to stereotypes and lead to prejudicial attitudes and behaviors. And given that we are born into groups, cultures, and environments, we often have biased ways of seeing different groups and communities based on our social identities. Go watch that other video. You see, our brain is a massive computer that stores information based off of what we hear, see, and observe in our environments. And in order to make sense of the world around us, we quite literally put all of this references that we have towards groups, objects, and symbols, the list is endless, and put them in a nice folder in our brain, i.e., a stereotype. If we did not do this, our brains would literally explode with the amount of information that we receive on a daily basis. However, when those references are constantly negative, it can lead to prejudice. And while trying to grapple with our own personal prejudices, on a wider note, prejudice can also be maintained and even reinforced when people in power shape and influence the way we see the world, based off of the institutions, the systems, and the structures that they can create. And that's where we get into the systemic sort of stuff. Allport's work was fundamental and foundational to social and political psychology, shaping our current understandings of all the isms, phobias, and prejudices, and even social identity that we explained in the previous video.
Combination.
Prejudice is a common trait in every society and can lead to some pretty bad outcomes when it leads to discrimination and systemic injustices. The truth is that on some level, we all have prejudices. And if we want to create a world where different communities can unite together, we need to break down this on a human level and on a systemic level. But given the fact that I'm a social psychologist, I'm going to break it down on a human level. Allport explicitly stated that to reduce prejudice, we need to learn how to come together in a healthy way and engage across lines of difference. In social psych, we call this contact hypothesis, where contact between groups needs to have the following 4 conditions. 1, equal status between groups in a given situation. 2, common goals. 3, intergroup cooperation. And finally, 4, the support of authorities, laws, and customs in a given context. Conditions you don't usually find in Twitter. X. And as you can probably tell, getting all of these conditions right, particularly in a hostile environment, can be very hard, but it's not impossible. Stick with me. So on July 21st, 2015, a terrible war started between 2 of the largest fandoms in pop culture. The Barbs, i.e. Nicki Minaj, I'm a Barb myself, and the Swifties. Don't flick away, stick with me, I have a point to make here. Nicki tweeted that she was upset that she wasn't nominated for Video of the Year in the VMA Awards, and that the industry prioritized certain white artists over Black creators and artists. But the thing is that Nicki didn't mention anyone in the tweets. However, Taylor Swift herself was nominated for the Video of the Year, and she felt that Nicki's words were meant for her. She responded, "I've done nothing but love and support you. It's unlike you to pit women against each other. Maybe one of the men took your slot." That was my best impression of an American accent. This feud might sound innocent to most of you, but I remind you that prejudice is built in by default into most of the biggest fandoms that we see today. The Barbs and the Swifties are two of the largest fandoms and fan bases that exist today. And some of their members have gone as far as bullying, abusing, and engaging in illegal practices just to defend their queen. So this is a real deal. And after these tweets, tensions were rising high and wars were building out between the two groups. And Nicki even stated that the tweet was not even meant for Taylor, and then Taylor publicly apologized. This was a great initiative on both sides, but the two groups, i.e. fandoms, were at odds with each other and at each other's throats. So the girls had to do something, and an apology was not enough. So, on the 2015 VMAs, the event went all well and good, with Taylor opening up the show. And she actually shocked everyone when she invited Nicki Minaj to perform alongside her. At the end of their set, they exchanged a hug, and the feud ended instantly with no casualties at hand. So, what happened here? The apology was not enough to reduce the prejudice between the fandoms. Contact had to happen between the two stars in order to reconcile. Precisely one that included 4 of the criteria that we mentioned earlier. 1, they were performing as 2 powerful women in the music industry. Equal status. 2, they shared the same goal of supporting each other and hashing out their differences. 3, they collaborated on the same event, intergroup cooperation. 4, they were supported by the VMAs and the music industry as well. Support of authorities. This is just one example as to how we can actually bridge across lines of differences and reduce prejudice between communities. But the contact hypothesis is not foolproof. In fact, it can actually worsen prejudice if it is not done correctly. Also, the contact does not need to be done in person. We can achieve the outcomes of contact hypothesis through different means, such as awareness training, education, intercultural competencies programs, and community initiatives. Also, media representations from the communities that need it the most. I wonder what organization does that. That's us. In the age of global interconnectedness, contact is not enough. We need people, spaces, and those in power positions to facilitate appropriate conditions to reduce prejudice between groups and unify across our differences. And Garm, that is what we're doing. So make sure you're subscribing to our channel and stick with us as we learn how to unify across our differences through contact hypothesis.